Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to iqbar.com today and enter promo code KELLER20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's iqbar.com, promo code KELLER20.
More bans on going in the woods, while some people go viral for breaking the rules. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
First, it was Nova Scotia. Now it's New Brunswick. The provincial government in New Brunswick is also banning people from the woods. So no camping, hiking, fishing, no ATVs in the woods because of the fire risk. The only difference with New Brunswick is that, while there are fines for people who violate the order, they aren't $25,000 fines like the fines in Nova Scotia. The Liberal Premier of New Brunswick, Susan Holt, made the announcement during a news conference this weekend.
I know that New Brunswickers care deeply for their neighbors and are passionate about our woods and our forest and our beautiful natural environment. And right now, we need you to show that passion and care for your neighbors and for our forests by taking action to protect this province and its people. We're asking you to think about your actions and choose to keep each other safe. It's crucial. Your support and New Brunswickers' action in this is crucial to keeping our wildfire teams focused on the fires that exist today and not adding to the problem. We need to allow our teams to do what they're doing now and not strain our resources further.
There are a dozen active fires in New Brunswick. 2 of them are burning out of control. One of those out-of-control fires is in the Miramichi. The other not far from Moncton. The fines in New Brunswick for failing to abide by these new restrictions relatively small. It's just $75. That's a far cry from the $25,000 fines being threatened by the Nova Scotia government. Premier Holt was asked why she's not following Nova Scotia's lead and raising the fines.
We are really hoping that at the end of all this, we will have issued 0 fines, because New Brunswickers will have seen the risk to their neighbors, the risk to our emergency response systems, and they will have chosen to go to the beach, to go downtown, to get an ice cream, a cold beverage, and support our local entrepreneurs. And we hope to not have to issue any fines for people who choose not to adhere to the ban to access to Crown lands. There are existing fines in place as detailed in the Forest Act. But right now, we know that New Brunswickers are good at looking out for each other. We know that New Brunswickers want to protect our woods and forests and want to make sure that they're there for generations to come to enjoy. Should that change, then we'll revisit the question of fines.
And Premier Holt said they're closely watching what's happening in Nova Scotia and in Newfoundland and Labrador, where fines for violating fire bans have been significantly increased.
We are absolutely watching what's happening in Nova Scotia and in Newfoundland, and the team in New Brunswick is working very hard, initially with our province-wide fire ban, and now with the ceasing of activities on Crown land to prevent any future fires or incidences, and we're asking New Brunswickers to join us in that, to join us in protecting the woods and protecting our province, and to shift for those who are camping on Crown lands, who were planning to have a fire or something like that, to change their plans for the time being. And I have a lot of faith in New Brunswickers and their passion for our woods and our environment. Should that prove to change, and should we see more incidences of accidental causes of fire, whether that's because of a side-by-side or an ATV or a cigarette butt or a camp stove tipping over, then we will watch the situation and we will act accordingly.
Since last week's fire restrictions were announced by Premier Tim Houston in Nova Scotia, there have been some high-profile acts of residents violating the ban on going into the woods. For example, a man named Jeff Evely from Cape Breton Island made the front page of the Toronto Sun. Mr. Evely proudly violated the ban and went so far as to tell conservation officers he was going to do so. He filmed it and put the whole thing on social media.
I'm Jeff Evely. I called earlier.
Evely?
Yeah, Evely. I spoke to somebody earlier. About the woods ban.
Yep.
And I understand that you guys issue $25,000 fines right now for anybody who goes in.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go in the woods over here.
Okay.
I don't want to make any trouble for you guys. Okay, I took this to court the last time they did it. They said I didn't have standing because I wasn't fined, so there was no money involved.
Okay.
So I want to challenge this order in court, and the only way for me to do that is to get the fine. So I'm not trying to make trouble for you guys. Okay, I just want a piece of Tim Houston. And I want to be as accommodating and nice as I can be. I'm just going to...
Okay, so I'm ordering you to not.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I
That's
understand.
another...
Roger that.
I'm doubling the fines right now.
Okay.
And then he went into the woods and was later hit with a fine of $28,000, which includes court costs and victim fees. And another man from Nova Scotia also defied the woods ban, taking his children along with him for a hike in the woods in a video that's been viewed hundreds of thousands of times across many social media accounts.
Hey, I'm walking here with my kids in Nova Scotia, in the forest, looking at $125,000 fine for walking on this beautiful trail. We don't smoke. We're not going to light a fire. I don't think really anybody else is going to do that either who is a decent citizen. So I think it's that the government is trying to stop people from walking in the forest. Hey kids, what are we? Free! That's right, we're free.
Another Canadian constitutional organization is being very critical of the Houston government's decisions to restrict people from going into the woods, calling them anti-human. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms says it's considering a legal challenge on charter grounds. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
Expect two international stories to dominate the news cycle this week. One of them is Israel's plan for Gaza, and the other is Trump meeting Putin in Alaska later this week on Friday. On Israel's plans for Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a news conference for the foreign press yesterday and said his government's goal is to free the Palestinians from Hamas.
The truth is that Hamas still has thousands of armed terrorists in Gaza. It vows to repeat the savagery of the October 7th massacre and to do so again and again and again. It openly professes its goal to destroy the state of Israel. It subjugates Gazans, it steals their food, it shoots them when they try to move to safe zones. And I think it's instructive that now many Gazans are fighting back. They're begging us, they're begging the world, free us, and free Gaza from Hamas.
The Netanyahu plan includes the complete takeover of Gaza City, which critics say will be a catastrophe, but Netanyahu says is key to ending the war.
I don't want to prolong the war, I want to end the war. And I think the other suggestions would have prolonged it. We may have gotten maybe a dripping of hostages, even though Hamas showed no willingness to do that. And then they just go on and on and on, and we'd have this endless. Unless you are willing to just say, Israel, capitulate, go out. And even then, I don't think we'll get all the hostages. And if we capitulate, it means that Hamas will rearm, regroup, and carry out all the threats that it openly professes every day, by the way. Every day they say, we're going to do the October 7th massacre again and again, and we're going to destroy the state of Israel. You can't leave them there.
In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney said, quote, "This escalation will do nothing to end the humanitarian horror in Gaza or the deepening suffering of both the Israeli hostages and the Palestinian civilians, nor will it advance long-term peace and security for the Israeli people." Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Canada, Australia, France, Germany, Italy, New Zealand, Norway, and the UK issued a joint statement saying they all strongly reject the decision of the Israeli Security Cabinet. The Netanyahu government is facing more criticism today, following the death of a journalist for Al Jazeera, killed in an Israeli attack. Israel claims he was the leader of a Hamas cell. That's one major international news story, but it may soon be overshadowed by another. U.S. President Donald Trump is to host Russian President Vladimir Putin this coming Friday in Alaska. And ending the Russia-Ukraine war is at the top of the agenda. Friday, Trump claimed to news reporters the war would never have happened if he had been the president.
When those guns start going off, it's awfully tough to get them to stop. It really does. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. There was no reason for it. So many people are killed, so much cultural destruction. You look at those magnificent towers, the most beautiful in the world. The spires were considered the most beautiful in the world. They're all in 1 million pieces, laying on the ground, all obliterated, knocked into 1 million pieces. So sad. But millions of people have died, and very, very much set in their ways. A lot of people were set in their ways, but I think we're getting close. I mean, this was not my war. This was Biden's war.
Speaking on Face the Nation on CBS this weekend, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said Putin is the biggest threat to the Western alliance, and he gave Donald Trump credit for breaking the deadlock on the war.
He is still the main threat to the Western alliance, there's no doubt. And I think it is very good that President Trump will test him, and we'll see how far he can get on Friday, starting this process. He basically broke the deadlock, President Trump, in February, starting the dialogue with Putin. I think that was crucial. We had a great NATO summit under his leadership, committing to 5% defense spending, so that is a clear signal to our main threat, which is Russia, that we are serious. And then he opened the floodgates 3 weeks ago of American lethal weapons to be delivered into Ukraine, coordinated by NATO. And of course, the secondary sanctions. He started them with putting them on India, which is one of the biggest buyers of Russian oil and gas.
U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham predicted there will be land swaps included in any agreement to end the war, meaning Ukraine could lose territory.
Well, think about East Berlin and West Berlin as a way a conflict can be settled, at least for a period of time. North Korea and South Korea is in a state of truce. There's never been a final settlement. But I come on your show a good bit. I want to be honest with you. Ukraine's not going to evict every Russian, and Russia's not going to Kyiv. So there'll be some land swaps at the end. But what would a good deal look like? Make sure that 2022 doesn't happen again. On Biden's watch and Obama's watch, Russia invades. The goal for me, and I think President Trump, is to end it forever. Now, what would that look like? You'll have some land swaps, but only after you have security guarantees to Ukraine to prevent Russia from doing this again.
Trump as well suggested on Friday there could be land swaps involved in getting a deal.
Will Zelensky have to give up territory, Mr. President?
Well, you're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some Some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. But we'll be talking about that either later or tomorrow or whatever.
All that is known right now about the location of this summit is that it will happen somewhere in Alaska and that it's happening on Friday. And it's still not known if Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be there. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
And if you're ever looking for a podcast of this show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, there's a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to listen live. Listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker spelled Seekr. And it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. And you can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker spelled Seekr. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Our Newsday panel is coming up after the news at the bottom of the hour. Kate Harrison from Summa Strategies. Neil Brodie, longtime conservative strategist and commentator, used to work in the Harper PMO. He's going to join us as well. We haven't talked to either of them, I think, for most of the summer. One of the topics that we're going to be discussing today is the by-election in Battle River Crowfoot involving Pierre Poilievre and 213 other people. That's a week from today. And, you know, one of the questions we'll have to ask is, what does winning look like for Pierre Poilievre? For example, Damien Carrick was the Conservative MP for Battle River Crowfoot. He won in the election earlier this year on April 28th with 83% of the vote. What if Poilievre doesn't get 83% of the vote? What if he gets 75% of the vote? What if he gets less than that? Just what does success look like for Pierre Poilievre? And Jenny Byrne was the campaign manager for the Conservative Party in the most recent federal election and told a podcast recently she's stepping away from a day-to-day role in Conservative Party politics. She expressed, though, not too many regrets about the way the campaign went. And we'll ask, should she have any regrets about the way the last election campaign unfolded? One of the regrets that she did express was she didn't think they kept their eye on the ball in Pierre Poilievre's former riding of Carleton in the Ottawa area. It's a day off for the Toronto Blue Jays, but let's face it, the Jays are probably happy to see the backside of the LA Dodgers and actually come out of their series in California in as good a shape as they are. The Jays, through the first two games, were outscored 14-2. And yesterday's match was certainly no sure thing. It was a back-and-forth affair. The Jays pitchers were struggling to find the strike zone all day. Gave up at least a dozen walks. But a ninth-inning home run and some heroics from the bullpen saved the day. And the Jays avoided the sweep and get to head home with a 5-4 win at their back. Ernie Clement hit a solo shot in the ninth inning, and that stood up only because of Mason Fluharty and brilliant pitching from him in the bottom half of the final inning. Fluharty entered the game with the bases loaded and one out and had to face arguably the best player in baseball in Shohei Ohtani. He struck him out, and then he had to face Mookie Betts, who hit into a fielder's choice to end the game. So as a result of that win and a Boston Red Sox loss to the Padres, the Jays are still 4 games up on the Red Sox in the American League East, 6.5 games ahead of the Yankees. And up next for the Jays, the Cubs, Chicago Cubs in Toronto. The Cubs are in second place in the National League Central Division and actually sport one of the best records in baseball. Game time tomorrow, 7:07 Eastern Time. You can watch all the Blue Jays action on Sportsnet. You can listen to Jays games on the radio if that's your preference. And the News 95.7 in Halifax, 570 News Radio in Kitchener, and Sportsnet 960, The Fan in Calgary. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio. Well, it's time for our Newsday panel. Heavy on the politics today. Kate Harrison is vice chair at Summa Strategist. Welcome back, Kate Harrison. Good to hear from you.
Great to be here, Rob. Hope your summer's going well.
Everything is great here. Neil Brodie is back with us as well, longtime conservative strategist, commentator. How are you, Neil?
I'm just fantastic, Rob. I hope, like Kate, that your summer's been great as well.
Well, I hope everybody's summer is going well. So let's, Pierre Poilievre hopes he has a good summer. And one thing that would make it a great summer is if he wins the by-election in Battle River Crowfoot, which is scheduled to take place 1 week from today. Kate Harrison, what do you think of the job Pierre Poilievre has done as he tries to appeal to local voters while still pressing the national issues of a national party leader?
Well, I think running in a province that, the Pierre has not represented forever and has been out of for some time probably means that he needs to spend quite a bit of time in the riding, knocking on doors, letting voters know who he is, what it's about. So I think that there's been an appropriate amount of TLC paid to constituents in Battle River Crowfoot. He is not treating this in a typical parachute candidate fashion where, you're kind of there in name only, but doing other things. So I think that it's right that the focus has been on that local re-election, Rob, and I would suspect that the by-election will go his way. And that you'll see a return to him much more regularly in terms of, social media posts and clippings and some of the more national leader type of things once that by-election concludes. So I think it's been probably difficult to maintain that balance with this going on, but it's happening at a time, fortunately, where I think it's right for Pierre to be focused on that local election. And then we hit the fall with him back in the House, and I think that that's going to lift the spirits of a lot of Conservatives.
Okay. What do you think of the job that he's done navigating kind of the two planes of this campaign where he has to appeal to people in Battle River Crowfoot, understand their issues, but then deliver a national message because he's a national party leader? Neil, what do you think?
Well, I think he's done the job he had to. First, Mr. Poilievre doesn't have to work too hard to appeal to the local voters in Battle River Crowfoot. Conservative policy speaks to the people of that riding as much as the policies speak to any Conservative Party supporter across the country. Lower taxes, less government in your life, and get tough on crime. Those are core Conservative values, core Conservative policy propositions. And I think if you walked around Battle River Crowfoot and asked what voters they were looking for, I bet you that those would come up pretty high on the list. And, secondly, there haven't been any missteps. I haven't heard any big headlines coming out of the by-election. There's been no great controversy. He's out there knocking on doors. He's participated in some small candidate debates.
And
he's got through those with no headlines. We all know what the Conservative usual headlines are, and there haven't been any of those. So he's done what he's needed to do to get to secure a win there, I think.
Okay. This process of having to, admit defeat in Carleton and then find somebody to step aside and, count on Mr. Carney to even call a fast by-election, which to his credit, the Prime Minister did, and then run in this by-election and spend your summer doing that. Has this hurt Poilievre's standing in the Canadian political scene? What do you think, Neil? Is he tarnished now because of this process? What do you think?
I think the proof will be after whatever it is, September 28th, whenever the House of Commons comes back. No one likes to lose their quote-unquote home riding. It happens, though. But I think, it's been 4 months since the election, 6 months after the election. He should quite comfortably be back in the House of Commons. So I don't think it will have any lasting impact, but It's certainly something he has to take care of immediately.
Okay. Kate, any thoughts on that? Is this tarnished Poilievre in any way?
I'm with Neil that we don't really know yet. I think there's been a bit of a pregnant pause, obviously, in terms of getting him back into the House. It's happening, to your point, Rob, expeditiously compared to when it could have happened. The Prime Minister could have dragged this out much longer, and I think that also would have had some negative impacts. But I look at the most recent Abacus data polling; it shows that the Conservatives are only 3 points back from the Liberals nationally, and so it hasn't seemed to diminish at least where Canadians view Conservatives right now. I would say, though, it has probably extended the honeymoon that the new Prime Minister has by, dividing the leader's attention at least somewhat between these local by-election, and then also trying to be that national leader. Though he did, of course, come to the press last week and talk about new legislation that he would be moving forward once he returns to the House. So they're clearly trying to do both at the same time. And I think that we'll have a better estimation of whether or not that's had a long-term impact, his absence from the House and having a seat, probably mid-fall or closer to the end of this year.
So Damien Couric carried this on election night with 83% of the vote for the Conservative Party. What does success look like for Poilievre? What if he doesn't get 83% of the vote? What if it's 70% of the vote or what have you?
He won't get 80. He won't get what Damien Couric got. I think that's pretty well understood. He also wasn't running in this longest ballot nonsense, Mr. Couric, and Mr. Poilievre is. And I think that ultimately that it landed in a better place than what it could have. But even this write-in ballot situation that they'll have in the by-election is prone to error and some concerns, I think. So the dynamics are a bit different, but I think that it's less about the number. It's also a summer by-election. Don't be surprised if turnout is not super high. This has an inordinate amount of focus in Ottawa, of course, because it involves the leader of the opposition. But for a lot of people, their summer continues just as it always had, regardless of the by-election or not. So we can parse the numbers here and there, but I think that it's just more important at the macro level that he's back in the House. He's finding opportunities to challenge the Prime Minister, who has not come under much scrutiny in the early part of his mandate.
Fair enough. You agree with that, Neil? Don't focus on the numbers. So what if he doesn't get 83%?
Nobody will care. My Blue Jays won 15-1 last week. It was just a win. Nobody cares about the score. You get the win. Right. Mr. Poilievre will be back in the House of Commons in the fall as the leader of the official opposition, holding Mr. Carney's feet to the fire.
Yeah, be right back. It's our Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
With our Newsday panelists today, Kate Harrison, Vice Chair at Summa Strategies, and Neil Brodie, longtime Conservative strategist and commentator. Jenny Byrne has told a political podcast that she is stepping away from any day-to-day major role in Conservative Party politics. Let me ask you this, Kate Harrison. Do you think Jenny Byrne has been treated unfairly, say in the media or by the commentary class?
I don't know about unfairly. I think I listened to the podcast. I think that Jenny is right to point out that she seems to be getting a high degree of focus compared to that of other national campaign managers. But she's been a force within Conservative politics and Conservative circles for many, many years. And it was our party that was on the cusp of seizing victory. So I think it's fair that there would be a little more focus on what we're doing, for example, or how we fared or the decisions that were made compared to that of the NDP. But I do think ultimately the buck stops with the leader, and it does with others. And what I would say is unfair, and it's just my view, but there seems to be a lot of focus on Ms. Byrne's role in relations between the federal and provincial parties, and I think that is maybe unfair. I think that, if there's a rift to be mended there, that should come down to Premier Ford and Mr. Poilievre getting together and hashing it out and putting that at the feet of advisors.
Premier Ford and Premier Houston or whatever, right? Yeah.
So putting that at the feet of advisors, in my view, is misplaced, and that should come down to the leaders of the party.
Do you think Jenny Byrne has been treated unfairly in the news media by critics? What would you say, Neil? What do you think?
Well, listen, I'm not going to pretend to be Jenny Byrne's best friend. However, I will say she has been a tireless worker for the Conservative Party since before its inception. She's passionate and is not afraid to put her money where her mouth is. I would challenge anyone who has complained about the job she did or has other comments on Jenny Byrne to take up the jobs that Jenny Byrne has held over the last 20, 25 years and try to do them with even 10% of the capability that she's done it. So no, has she been treated unfairly? If she's being accused by other campaign managers, I think those are fair discussions to have. But anybody who's never been a campaign manager, national campaign manager, can't say that she's done a particularly good or bad job because you don't know what that job entails until you've done it.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing here. My read from listening to that interview is that she wasn't saying that she was being treated unfairly. And if you want to get into, the game of fairness, then I would suggest you not get into politics. But I think, some of the points that she made around, the focus that she has gotten vice others is
I think that's
notable.
fair.
But, and I think that's fair.
Who was the campaign manager for the Liberals? Like, can anybody even remember?
Crickets. And that was
I think
a winning
it was
campaign.
Bevan, but and the New Democrats who ran the NDP campaign. I don't know. Everybody knows who Jenny Byrne is.
Another
Maybe
woman.
Anne McGrath. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I do think that there would have been probably a lot of attention and praise heaped upon Miss Byrne if she was the victor and we weren't the victors, and so there goes the criticism, and that's the name of the game. And I didn't sense that she was saying she felt she should be treated any other way. But definitely when it comes to and I think this rift between the federal and provincial Conservatives is overstated. I've been involved with both parties for almost 20 years now. But there's certainly some personality conflicts here that needs to be hashed out at the leadership level.
Yeah.
That's not.
Well, I think she did mention that she was subjected to criticisms that say other campaign managers weren't, like, relationship status and wardrobe and weight and hair and all of this kind of stuff, which is interesting. Now, she does not have many regrets about the main message of the campaign, which was really focused on the Liberal record and cost of living pocketbook issues and less about the big pivot to Trump. And she still doesn't think that was a mistake. The only mistake that she really admits to is that they should have kept a closer watch on what was happening actually in the riding of Carleton, Poilievre's riding at the time. But should she have more regrets than that? Neil, what do you think?
No, listen, you devise a campaign based on whatever 3, 4, 5 main core messages. Those issues that were talked about in the election are still issues. Mr. Carney hasn't been able to come in and wave a magic wand and all of a sudden, 30-year-olds can afford houses and, cauliflower's back down to 99 cents a head. Like that's not happening. So those issues still pull very highly across Canada as main issues for Canadians. You have to have some message discipline when you're in the washing machine of a national campaign, and I don't think she should regret sticking on the message. That was a winning message. If this is a horrible argument to make, but if the campaign had gone on for another month, who knows what would have happened? The Conservatives were gaining ground the last 2 weeks on the exact same messages they've been pounding home for the last 2 years. People are finding it very difficult to manage after a zero growth economic policy by Justin Trudeau, and we're still seeing it. So I think the messages are still good.
Okay, I'll let you have a thought on that when we come back. Kate, because I'd love to hear your thought, because you were also quite adamant at the time that focusing on cost of living issues as opposed to doing some big pivot to Trump was probably wise. I'd like to get your thoughts on that as well. When we come back, I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues. on News Radio.
With Kate Harrison, Neil Brodie, our Newsday panelists today. I remember speaking with you, Kate, during the election campaign, and you were quite confident that there shouldn't be a major pivot and a major focus on Trump and away from cost of living issues for Poilievre. And I wonder, do you feel the same way now?
Yeah, I was a broken record, and I probably won't change my tune. I think there was a momentum shift that happened later in the campaign, and the more Trump got quiet, the more people did focus on some of our systemic issues as a country and affordability concerns, and you start to see things improve for the Tories. And I'm of the view that if the election were a week longer, it would have been even closer, and maybe the Conservatives would have pulled it out. I fail to see a winning narrative message on Trump that would have been taken during the campaign that would have made things dramatically different. And the reality is, Rob, I think the voter coalition that the Conservatives have now and the ones that they need to continue to appeal to are more concerned about these day-to-day issues, housing challenges, affordability, crime, immigration, the things that Conservatives own the issue set on. So usually you want to play the game based on, your rules. I think talking about Trump and giving that oversized importance plays by the Liberals' rules and plays to their narrative.
Okay.
So I think that the party was right to stay focused on what it owns.
Is that kind of your line of thinking as well, Neil? And do you maybe expect that to be a major narrative when that House picks up in the fall?
Well, listen, the issues of as I said before the break, the issues of the campaign are still here. The healthcare system is generally broken. The cost of living is unaffordable. I can't see how that would change at all going forward.
Okay. Just a minute or two left. Does anyone hold it against Prime Minister Mark Carney that he's taking some time off this week, or some downtime this week is how it's described? He's in the National Capital Region, and he's connected and he's being apprised of any developments, but he's more or less on vacation. I would note it's not a Trudeau-style vacation. Okay, we're not going to see pictures of Mark Carney with a surfboard in a wetsuit. Mark Carney, probably despite knowing many people who own private islands, he's not going to a private island. He's sticking close to home. Buzz is he's at Harrington Lake in the Gatineau Hills, the Prime Minister's summer residence. Anybody hold it against Mark Carney for taking some downtime? Neil?
Absolutely not. I don't think I've ever criticized a Prime Minister for taking time off. Their days are full. You never know what tomorrow is going to bring on your schedule until it is over. And the workload and the stress don't go down when you're on vacation. You just work at a better location than downtown Toronto. And staying close to home is probably a relief to Mr. Carney after he spent, the last 6 months-ish on an airplane from Liberal leadership run to trips to Europe and Washington, then a general election followed by more trips to Europe, and this summer jetting around the country trying to look busy. I think a week off is in the cards.
Okay. You agree with that, Kate? Only about 20 seconds left.
Yeah, the Laurentian Prime Minister is more than entitled to a vacation in the Laurentians after the last number of months. He doesn't deserve any criticism for some time off, but it would be nice to have an update on where we sit with trade negotiations, given it is, after all, the biggest crisis of our lifetime, according to him.
Yep.
Okay. Wrap it up there. Thank you to both of you. Speak soon. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Bye-bye. That's our Newsday panel. Talkback right after the news. Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. We have a couple of topics for you to consider today. Give them some thought and give us a call. One of the topics is still banning people from going into the woods. I can't take my eyes off this thing. The other is pipelines and whether you consider building a pipeline to be in the national interest. There's a news hook to that. Our phone lines are open right now, and the number to call is 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. So on these bans from going into the woods because of the risk of starting a fire, we first started talking about this on Wednesday of last week. In Nova Scotia, the premier there, Tim Houston, made his government's announcement on Tuesday. We followed up on it on the following day. And during Talkback of last week, it was the most commented on issue. That topic, banning people from the woods because of fire risk, generated the most phone calls we have had on any topic, maybe all year, certainly all summer, but maybe all year. And I said to you last week, watch this story. I think this is going to be more than just a Nova Scotia story. People all across the country are taking notice of this, and this is going to become a national news story. And now here we are. It's a brand new week, and I would say most certainly it's a national news story. One angle of the story is someone openly defying the ban on going into the woods and getting fines of more than $28,000. That's the story that made the front page of the Toronto Sun this weekend. But a guy from Cape Breton, when does that ever make the cover of the Toronto Sun? And now, look, Nova Scotia is not the only province that is doing this. They're doing something similar in New Brunswick as well. They're banning people from going into the woods. It's a fire prevention measure, they say. The difference with the New Brunswick situation is that violators won't be hit with $25,000 fines. But the premier there, a Liberal, sounds a lot like the progressive premier of Nova Scotia. The Liberal premier in New Brunswick is Susan Holt, and her government says is monitoring the situation in Nova Scotia and in Newfoundland, where the provincial government there significantly hiked the fines for people who violate fire bans. They don't have bans on people going in the woods. They certainly have fire bans in effect. But if Premier Holt thinks that's what needs to be done in her province, she says she's not ruling it out. She hopes she doesn't have to do it. But she has ordered people in New Brunswick to get out of the woods and stay out of the woods until further notice. So very similar to Nova Scotia. No hiking, no camping, no fishing, no vehicles in the woods. Applies to Crown land. Doesn't have the same kind of tough language about people on their own private land, although she's encouraging people on their own private land to follow the same restrictions. And as I say, all for the same reason. Very dry. Conditions prime for fires. There are fires burning in New Brunswick. One of them is out of control, and it's quite close to Moncton. So while that is going on, you have legal organizations that focus on charter rights. And I would say we're very active during the pandemic years, launching court challenges against public health restrictions, travel restrictions, lockdowns, vaccine mandates. They are out there saying they're going to launch court challenges, saying these measures, banning people from the woods, goes too far. It's violation of people's rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, a couple of guys showed up on my social media feed over the weekend because they took it upon themselves to blatantly violate the ban in Nova Scotia. Guy from Cape Breton filmed his whole exchange with conservation officers and put it up on social media. And yes, was fined more than $28,000. Which he says was his plan all along. He wanted to be fined, so he says he could challenge the whole thing in court. The video on social media, on X, has more than 3 million views. 3 million views. And as I say, it was on the cover of the Toronto Sun. Another guy took his children for a walk in the woods, filmed it, went on a rant how stupid he thought this ban was. I have no idea if he was ever fined or not, but he said it was about being free. We're free, he told his children, and we're not going to follow this ban. And that's kind of what we want to focus on today with your help. These people who are openly defying this ban and basically giving two giant middle fingers to the Nova Scotia government. What do you think of these people? Because it seems to break down like this. There are some people who view these violators as heroes, people who are standing up against tyranny, fighting for freedom, that this is a gross abuse of government power. While others view them as attention seekers and crackpots. And they think the government should hit them with every bit of a $25,000 fine for breaking the law. Where do you come down on that? I mean, they go viral when they do it. The video circulating over the weekend, I mean, millions of views. Heroes, crackpots, give that some thought and give us a call. 1-833-668-2577. Now, on the other topic, pipelines, I'll get into that in a moment and outline what we want to ask you today. I mean, it basically comes down to this. Do you think building pipelines is in the national interest? Is building pipelines in the national interest? And how would you react if a list eventually is released from this Carney government of projects that are in the national interest, but it doesn't include a pipeline? A pipeline is not on that list. How would you react? Would you be upset, mad even? Or would you be okay with that if a pipeline wasn't on a list of projects in the national interest? It's Talkback, back at it for another week here. I'm Rob Snow. Our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to us. We'll make your call a priority, and I look forward to putting you on the air in a few minutes from now, right here on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So a pair of topics for you to consider today. A few people in Nova Scotia they are openly defying the ban on going into the woods because of fire risk, wildfire risk. They say it's stupid. It violates their rights. And they're going viral on social media, filming themselves in the woods. What do you think of these people? They're brazenly breaking the law. 1-833-668-2577. I would note, of course, that Nova Scotia is not the only province now doing this. They're doing it in New Brunswick as well. So it's spreading, you could say. Do you think a pipeline, building a pipeline, is that something that's in the national interest? The Carney government is coming up with a list. These are what we think are projects in the national interest. Should a pipeline make that list? Say a pipeline from Alberta to New Brunswick, or a pipeline from Alberta to Prince Rupert in British Columbia. And how would you react if, say, a year and a half from now, a list of nation-building projects is released by the Carney government, but a pipeline isn't on the list? These are important topics. Have your say. The phone lines are open right now. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on a Monday. Let's go to Frank in Surrey up first today on Talkback. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Rob. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. A little on the hot side.
Good.
It's toasty in this part of the country today, sir, but good to hear from you.
Yeah, I find this topic of the woods ban fascinating, and my first thought about it is there's no way anything like that would ever get to first base in British Columbia. People are so used to being in the woods, being out there camping, fishing, doing different things. If David Eby, who loves to invoke the power of government and loves government, brought something like that, there would just be a revolution here, because it's just so darn stupid.
Well, what do you think about what they've done in Nova Scotia? Do you think it's stupid that they've done it there?
Absolutely. There's all kinds of ways you can deal with this without banning people from going in the woods. You have fire bans. You have conservation officers. You have people who keep an eye on things. You don't need to ban people from going in the woods. And on private property, I mean, you know, Canadians need to be aware of how some of these premiers and politicians just are trampling on things that we have taken for granted for many generations.
Okay. Nevertheless, these governments have passed these regulations into effect now, and there are penalties for people who violate them. Okay. What do you think about people who just openly defy the law and say, screw your law, I'm not going to follow it?
Yeah, I think the only way that you can really, knock down this kind of, overzealous regulation is you have to make some public noise about it, and that's what they've done.
Okay.
I was amazed when you mentioned that had 3 million views on social media.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's quite a
that's
video.
clearly
I'm
being
going to play some of that a little as we
way
make our way through
beyond
the
the
day.
maritime provinces.
I mean, he walks into the local conservation officer's office building, like in his part of Nova Scotia on Cape Breton Island, and he says, "My name is Jeff Evely. I called you about this fire ban. I'm going to go into the woods behind your building here, and I want you to give me a fine because I want to challenge this in court. I'm not here to make any trouble." He says, "I'm just going to go in the woods. I'm going to film myself, and then you give me the fine." And they give him a fine, $28,000. $28,000.
Yeah, it's a huge fine, but he's made the point, and now he can fight it in court. That's exactly what he said he wants to do. And I just think it's absolutely nuts to go that far on something like this. There's many, many ways you can deal with issues like that. We have tons of forest fires in British Columbia every year. I've never heard of anybody ever suggesting a complete woods ban.
Well, summer's not over yet, sir.
That's
as
right.
you say, you have a far left activist government there in the NDP in British Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
So,
they'd love to bring in rules and regulations. David Eby's hardly ever met a regulation he didn't love, but I don't think
we'll see what happens. Frank, I really appreciate your call, Frank, from Surrey, British Columbia today. Good to hear from you. Be right back on pipelines or on banning people from the woods. And people going viral on social media because they're filming themselves going into the woods. I say, I'm not following this law. Give me the fine. Freedom, freedom, freedom. 1-833-668-2577. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, Ron, you're up next on Talkback, Ron. Yeah, go ahead. What's your opinion, please? I'm good, Ron. Go ahead.
Yeah, I listened to your intro, and it's I just want to make a comment on the topics. The first one, the wildfires. I 100% think that was a great idea for them to do that.
Okay.
We had a huge fire down here a number of years ago in Nova Scotia, Tantallon, and we were very lucky nobody was killed. A lot of houses were lost. The Nova Scotia Forestry Association gentleman was on the news this morning, and he was interviewed. And the Forestry Association is 100% behind this ban because their livelihoods depend on the woods, and there's no market for burnt wood. So the people that are challenging this decision are, in my opinion, extremely selfish and misguided.
They're selfish. Okay, fair enough.
Selfish and misguided.
Selfish and misguided, okay.
The other issue with regards to the pipeline, I would be absolutely really PO'd if pipelines don't end up on the list of things that are going to happen. The Energy East should have happened years ago, and there were roadblocks put in its way, and that's one of the main things I think that we need to do is an east to west energy corridor, and Energy East is a part of it, and I'm 100% for it. And anything else that they need to do.
The reason I wanted to bring that up today is because there's a story out of Ottawa. They managed to corner the new Minister of Energy. His name is Tim Hodgson. They asked him, well, what are you thinking about with projects in the national interest? Now, he mentioned things like infrastructure corridors, and he mentioned diversification infrastructure, But nowhere in the news story does it say the word pipeline. It's just not in there. And he kind of dances all around it.
Well, he should be challenged directly on that question then, because that's I'm down here. The majority of people. I mean, obviously there's going to be people who are going to call and say I don't agree with what the Ron just said, but I think the majority of people down here are in support of that infrastructure or that pipeline being built. And I know New Brunswick, mostly in New Brunswick, a lot of people there feel the same way. So there's a lot of support down here for it, and I think they should be maybe questioned directly with regards to that question.
All right, thank you. You're on in Nova Scotia. I want to take Keith's call here from Nova Scotia up next. Keith, you're on the air. Keith, go ahead.
Hi there. You can hear me okay, Rob?
I can hear you just fine. Keith, yeah, what's your opinion, please?
Okay, well, I'll just make a comment on the fire situation. So, very straightforward question. Do you see a major wildfire in Nova Scotia at the moment?
There's no major wildfire right now. No.
No. And I wonder why that is.
Well, there wasn't before this ban came into effect either.
What I'm saying is the ban obviously is going to affect people, make them think twice about it.
Yes.
Because if you look around what's going on in the rest of Canada, particularly out Alberta and places like that.
Well,
now
Manitoba.
Newfoundland is on fire. Newfoundland, last report, they had 12 fires on the go, and 2 of them are out of control. And
that's in New Brunswick, yeah. Yeah, in New Brunswick.
That's Newfoundland. Are you sure?
I'm positive, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There are fires in Newfoundland. Don't get me wrong. There are fires in Newfoundland, but I can tell you there are 12 fires currently burning in New Brunswick, and 2 of them are out of control. The Miramichi fire and the fire near Moncton, the 115 fire. Yeah.
All right. Well, I must have misunderstood that. Anyway, all I can say is...
Here's my thing. There are people who are going into the woods. They're putting it on social media. They're giving a giant middle finger to the government. What do you think of people who do that?
What I can say to that is I would ask those people, have you ever fought a forest fire or have you ever lost your home to a fire? I have done both.
Okay. All right, Keith, thank you. Be right back right after the news with more of your calls on Talkback. So some people are openly defying the ban on going into the woods because of the fire risk in Nova Scotia. They say it violates their rights and it doesn't make any sense. They're brazenly breaking the law. One individual's been fined more than $28,000 and doesn't seem too concerned about it, says he's going to challenge it in court. What do you think of these people? Also, a pipeline. Is building a pipeline in the national interest? Just answer that question. Do you think building a pipeline is in the national interest? And how would you react if a nation-building project list is released and a pipeline isn't on that? I bring that up because of a news report from Politico that scored an interview with Mark Carney's new Minister of Energy, Tim Hodgson. Now, Tim Hodgson worked with Mark Carney at the Bank of Canada. He also worked at Goldman Sachs, sat on the board of directors of energy companies in Alberta. Like, he's not a Stephen Guilbeault type guy. And these journalists from Politico asked Mr. Hodgson what might be on a list of projects in the national interest. And I read the story, and throughout the story, you don't see the word pipeline in the news story. You see the phrase infrastructure corridors. He talks about an energy partnership, but emphasizes hydroelectricity and wind power in Eastern Canada. He talks about critical minerals like the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario. And he talks about diversification infrastructure, which could really mean anything. Politico says projects on the Atlantic and Pacific coasts and at the Port of Montreal. But the point is the word pipeline isn't there. Nothing about a pipeline from northern Alberta, say, to St. John, New Brunswick, like the Energy East pipeline. Nothing about what's being dubbed Northern Gateway 2.0 that would go from northern Alberta to an expanded port in Prince Rupert, BC, which is something Danielle Smith has been really hot on. It's just kind of odd that the government won't say one way or the other, be explicit about it one way or the other, whether it thinks a pipeline is in the national interest and should be on a list of nation-building projects. That's why we wanted to put that question to you. Do you think building a pipeline is in the national interest of Canada? And what if sometime down the road, maybe a little more than a year from now, if there's a list released and a pipeline isn't on us? What would you think? Daryl in Nova Scotia has been patiently waiting there. Hello, Daryl.
Hi, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm good. Daryl, thank you for calling.
Hot here, buddy. It's really hot. So
Oh, it's hot here too, yeah.
the fire ban thing or the woods ban thing, 100% behind it. I am
okay.
I am about as liberal as they come, and I fully support Tim Houston's decision to do this.
Okay.
Simply because if you actually walk around the woods here, man, it is a tinderbox, and it wouldn't take very much for the entire place to go up. I mean, if one fire started here, they wouldn't be able to get a hold of it. They just really wouldn't. It's just too dry. So, I mean, for people that are from out west or BC or wherever, like a caller earlier said, he thought it was stupid and whatnot. Well, then, stay in Surrey. Don't come to Nova Scotia because we're not going to let you walk in the woods here.
Okay, but people are, my point is people are walking in the woods as a form of civil disobedience, and it's generating a lot of reaction. If you could, let me play one clip. Let's play,
Sure,
Curtis, let's play TB Woods 4, the 30-second clip of the guy out in the woods with his kids. Let's play
I'm walking
this.
here with my kids in Nova Scotia, in the forest. Looking at $125,000 fine for walking on this beautiful trail. We don't smoke. We're not going to light a fire. I don't think really anybody else is going to do that either who is a decent citizen. So I think it's that the government is trying to stop people from walking in the forest. Hey kids, what are we? Free! That's right, we're free.
What do you think of somebody like that?
Sounds like he's free to start a fire if he wanted to, right?
Okay.
I don't think he's I don't think he's doing a good job of teaching his kids how to be responsible, how to be a good citizen, because that's all it is.
Okay.
We're just trying to be, we're trying to protect what we have. And the climate these days, it's so overpowering. I mean, we could get forest fires one day and have a hurricane the next. I mean, we're coming up on hurricane season, and people with their boats, people who live close to the water, they move away, or they go away, or they get away. That's sort of how it works.
All right.
But people who can't get away from fires and they're in that area, then they're done. They're done. And one more comment, Rob, if I could.
Sure.
As far as the pipeline thing goes,
yeah,
I don't think it's going to fly. Not because I don't want it to. I just don't think you're going to find companies to build one to pay for it, like an oil pipeline.
Well, the companies are saying if you want us to build one, you're going to have to change a bunch of laws that Trudeau passed.
Yeah, I'm all on board with that.
But maybe Carney finds it. Maybe Carney does that. Maybe Carney does that.
Yeah, maybe he does. And if they do,
I'm telling you what, if there's not a pipeline on that list, there's going to be a lot of political blowback. There's going to be a lot of political blowback in Western Canada if there's not a pipeline on that list. Okay, gotta go. Thank you. Got you, Dale. Daryl, thank you. I want to get to Annie. Been waiting there in Calgary. Annie, thank you for calling from Calgary today. Annie, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi, Annie. You're on the air. What's your opinion,
Thank you. My opinion is that, unfortunately, when governments, and I would never want to be a government employee because there's no win there, but I think that they often have to take extreme actions in response to an extreme reality, and unfortunately, rules need to be made to serve the lowest common denominator in society. This person talking about civil disobedience and brazenly breaking the law, I think he's missing a point. And that is that, I'm in Alberta, yes, and we take a look back at Fort McMurray, take a look at Lake Louise, come out and have a look at those places, and then ask yourself if being a rebel is worth it, because it certainly doesn't seem like it to me that a rule to stay out of the woods temporarily, mind you, is because there are people who claim to be decent citizens and then they do crazy things. Most of the high percentage of the fires that are started in this country are human-caused fires. So are those all indecent people, or are they people who are careless, reckless, and maybe a rebel, extremely acting in one left or right way? And that just doesn't add up. For me, that's kind of insane. And so I do support the current rules that are in place because they have to be. And history tells us that. They must be, because it's been proven that people don't always use their head. And, you know, if you've got children in the woods and they're feeling like they can do anything, it could accidentally happen or carelessly happen. But when it happens, now try and correct that problem. It's just not even a question to me. But you must take extreme measures sometimes. And I think that's what they're doing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. It meets with Annie's approval. Be right back on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Banning people from the woods. People going viral when they violate the ban. Been talking about that today. Are pipelines in the national interest? Would that be a project in the national interest? Should it make a list of projects in the national interest? Your thoughts, please. Neil in Nova Scotia up next. Hi, Neil.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah,
how are
Neil.
you?
Yes,
I got
fine,
so
sir.
much. I got so much. The first time I even heard of your talk show. Okay, but I'm all wound up about these. Pardon me?
I'm glad we could track you down, Neil, and put you on the air. So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so with regard to the pipelines, best thing ever happened to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia back in 1999. A lot of families got put on their feet in a hurry. Okay, best pay across Canada, no doubt, without a doubt. A lot of people got a head start in life because of that pipeline, and still gaining benefits from it. Now, in 2015-14, whenever they had the NEB hearings that came, they started out west, Rob, and they headed towards the east. Now, one of the a very distinguished and perhaps one of the smartest men that I know, he was on that board. And you know what? When he came to when he got to St. John after coming right across Canada, he said, "Neil, I'm so stressed." He said, "The further east they got, the more resistance, Rob, to the point where Quebec it was just whatever, you know." And it's too bad. It's too bad. You know, they drill a lot, horizontal directional drilling. They crossed a lot of creeks and rivers and some properties, right? So it's too bad they couldn't start setting the drill there and go right under Quebec and up the other side, and then Energy East would have went. My friend, I won't mention his name. Well, he's a friend. He's a former boss. Anyway, he got so stressed by the time he got in St. John, New Brunswick, that he said, "Neil, you know what? I've had it," and he's retired now. Now, with regard to the fires, I heard that little. I heard you play that little reel there. Hey, and that guy, I can tell you right now, just listening to him, is smoking weed. And hey, what a way to start a fire in the forest. I hope he's listening to me because if he starts a fire, now where are the resources going to? And perhaps leaving somebody's house to burn, like happened in Fort McMurray. Because I drove there through that night, and I'm telling you, if he did, he wouldn't be with the smart-ass attitude that he has. Oh, excuse my language. With the smart.
That's okay.
Yes, but you understand where I'm coming. And I know, and that
sure,
gentleman.
You think he's a smartass. You think he's being a smartass, right?
He's not being a smartass. He's just being a toll on society. On New Brunswick,
a toll
I guarantee
on society.
And he's not from he's not from Nova Scotia. He's not even from the land of Canada. I can tell you right now with that attitude. Whoa. And I'm going to leave you with this because I know everybody wants to call and talk to you. I knew you were a smart man. That's why I call in. And maybe if you want to reach out to me, I might come on as a guest sometime to talk more about. I can go on. Anyway, you have a good day.
Okay.
Thanks for the airtime.
All right, Neil. Okay, Neil, thank you for calling. Yeah, thank you for calling, Neil. All right, James up next, and also in Halifax today. James. Hi, James.
Hi,
hello.
sorry.
Yeah,
here
ahead,
I am.
James. Glad to hear from you.
Thanks for letting me on.
Anytime.
Yeah, a couple of comments. I think Nova Scotia is doing the right thing by banning, it's temporary, if we get a rainfall within the next 2 weeks, the ban will be lifted. But in the meantime, we have a ban on going into forested areas. I live in Halifax. I went out for a walk on Sunday in Point Pleasant Park, which is Halifax's equivalent of Stanley Park or wherever you want to talk about. And nobody died. You know, we just had to stay closer to the waterfront. It wasn't a major restriction on my freedom. And I know people who live in other parts of Nova Scotia have different, but we're not talking about anyone going to jail. We're talking about walk your dog close to home instead of going into the woods. So I don't know. It's I think we're getting a little hyper about this constitutional. Anyway, we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and we'll see what happens if anybody wants to do a constitutional challenge. But in the meantime, like, take a breath.
Take a breath. Okay, take a breath. Take a breath. That's probably good advice. I don't do that maybe nearly often enough. It may explain more than a few things. Thank you, James, for your call from Halifax today. We'll be right back with more of your calls on a busy Monday Talkback here today at 1-833-668-2577 on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's get to Sylvia up first time caller calling from Nova Scotia today. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, Sylvia. What do you think about everything that's going on?
Well, the forest fire episode thing, you know, with banning people from the woods.
Banning people from the woods,
I agree completely with that. A couple of months ago, there was a fire, probably a couple of kilometers away from my home. I could see it in my backyard. Of course, fire trucks went by. And then the next thing I know, there's a truck pulling side-by-sides. So they had to go in and get people out of the woods. Now, who knows if those people caused the fire or if they were just in the woods and they had to go in and bring them out. So my thing is, I don't think it's necessarily just, you know, you can't go in the woods because you're going to start a fire. I think the Nova Scotia government is trying to keep everybody safe. Because if you're in the woods and you can't get out, you know, that's going to take the firefighters away from what they have to do to come rescue you.
Okay. What do you think about people? There are people who are now going viral because they're going into the woods and they're, oh, here I am in the woods. I'm fighting for my freedom and my children's freedom, and I'm going to fight this in court, and this is stupid, and hiking never caused a fire, and fishing never caused a fire. What about people like that? What do you think of those people?
I think I don't know, to me, they're attention seekers.
Attention seekers? Okay. Okay.
Well,
Somebody called them selfish. Somebody said they were selfish. Do you think they're selfish?
No, I hate to use the word stupid, but that
stupid.
Kind of
Yeah. If you think it's stupid, go ahead and call it stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people who think like that are stupid because all that's doing is causing an uproar. People here are worked up enough and people are very nervous. So for people to be pulling foolishness like that, that's not helping the cause any at all.
All right, Sylvia, thank you for sharing your opinion. Much appreciated. Kara in Calgary is up next. Kara.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. So I got a comment about both of the topics. The first one is the fire. The stupid, foolish, selfish, ridiculous, freedom spelled D-U-M-B at the end needs to be emphasized. If anybody's going to be doing this, they really need to be watching some of the videos that happened with the Fort Mac fires and the Jasper fires, just to see the devastation and to hear the terror in everybody's voices as they were trying to get out and the destruction that it caused and everything else. the ones that are bringing their children in, I really hope that they get an additional charge of, I don't know, can't remember exactly what it is, but something about enlisting, encouraging minors to participate in illegal activities.
Okay, I wouldn't be sure. I don't know what the actual law would be on that, but okay.
There needs to be something for encouraging children to participate in illegal things, or
breaking the law.
CPS being involved in this, because it could be a form of child endangerment, because if a fire does happen and they get trapped, the parent purposely took their children in there, knowing that this is not necessarily the safest place for them.
Yeah, well, again, that person's point was, look, we're hiking in the woods. We don't smoke. We're not starting fires. It goes too far.
Somebody a couple kilometers away, it doesn't smoke.
So on pipelines, just because hour number one is coming to an end here, do you think pipelines are in the national interest?
I think they are, but I think they're not going to happen because there's too many rats in Alberta with the separatists, and they don't want to figure out what's going to happen until that ridiculous story is done and over with. And
I
think that's the reason why it's not there yet.
Okay, you think it would be on the list if not for the separatist movement in Alberta right now? They want to kind of get beyond that. All right, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. Great to be with you. Brand new week of Talkback. We've been discussing 2 topics today. Some people in Nova Scotia are just openly defying the ban, not in great numbers, but they're openly defying the ban on going into the woods because of the fire risk, the restrictions imposed by the Tim Houston progressive conservative government last week on Tuesday. They say it doesn't make sense. They say it violates their rights. They're brazenly breaking the law. What do you think of these people? We've also been talking about pipelines today and asking a basic question. Is a pipeline and building a new pipeline in the national interest? And how would you react if a nation-building project is released by the Carney government and a pipeline isn't on the list? Have your say on that. More to say as we make our way through the hour on that particular topic and what is being contemplated right now according to news reports and what is not. Phone lines open, 1-833-668-2577. Mike in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Mike. Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
Great show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The point regarding the gentleman in the woods, making his declarations. Respectfully, I'm of the view, I guess, not to look south of the border, but I know former Congressman John Lewis, civil rights activist, always said of creating good trouble. I think if he really wants to make a statement, I think collective action would be more of the course, any more of a effective way of doing so. I personally don't agree with what he's doing. I think at the same time he claims to being free, he's also potentially putting himself and his family at risk, respectfully. As to the matter of the ban, I sort of side with many people who've already spoken. I think there's a degree of significant danger involved. I know my own sister-in-law who lives in Alberta came close to having her own home on fire when fires within the area potentially could have caught and then of course spread to her own home as well. So we're aware of the certainly significant risk that can take place with these types of fires or potential fires. The pipeline question is an intriguing one, and you raised a good point. Clearly, with this, the pipeline proposition, even if it's a national interest, is necessarily time sensitive because, as you know, there's a matter of consultation, perhaps with data groups within key areas. There's considerations of what businesses or companies would like to throw their hat in and agree to green light a certain project, and also if it would potentially yield creation of jobs, which is probably in the minds of many people, that thereby potentially increasing earnings and the value from that. So it's that certainly does take time, but it's something that I guess they have to weigh it carefully, and it's a different time now than it was in the days of Mr. Lougheed back in Alberta.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good to hear from you today, Mike, and thank you for being patient. Let's go to Kathy. is up next. Where are you calling from, Kathy? Where are you calling from, Kathy?
I'm calling from Herring Cove, which is about
Herring Cove. Okay, yeah, I know where Herring Cove is.
About 15 kilometers outside of Halifax. Oh my God, where do I begin? I fully support the government in terms of what they're doing.
All right.
You can't believe how dry it is here, and now we're under a heat wave for the next 2 to 3 days, which is making it worse.
Same where I am.
As far as, pardon me?
It's the same conditions where I am. We haven't had rain in weeks. My lawn is brown, and the fire, reading is extreme, and there's a burn ban in effect. But our government, I'm in Quebec, not far from Ottawa, but the Quebec government hasn't banned anybody from going into the woods yet.
Well, I think Nova Scotia has a lot more forests than Quebec. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I don't know about that.
That's neither here nor there. It's a good thing to do, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
First of all, this guy from Cape Breton that belligerently went out with DNR right there. Do you actually think this guy is an actual hiker that is missing hiking? No. He's looking for his 5 minutes of fame. He's looking for 3 or 4 million views on his YouTube channel, so maybe he can get enough money to pay the fine when it comes through, right? And as for the father there with the kids, I mean, oh my God, that's bringing up your kids to respect the law, to respect other people's rights. They're going on about constitutional rights and that sort of thing. What about my right?
Okay. So just in case we have new listeners all the time who are joining us throughout the day. So just in case people aren't aware of that particular video that seems to be one that has,
oh my God,
people are particularly upset about. So let's play this. This was going viral over the weekend. The father and his children, TB Woods 4, please, Curtis. Again.
Hey, I'm walking here with my kids in Nova Scotia, in the forest, looking at $125,000 fine for walking on this beautiful trail. We don't smoke. We're not going to light a fire. I don't think really anybody else is going to do that either who is a decent citizen. So I think it's that the government is trying to stop people from walking in the forest. Hey kids, what are we? Free! That's right, we're free.
Okay.
Oh my God. First of all,
oh my God, what? Oh my God, what? What do you mean? Oh my God.
First of all, it's not a $125,000 fine. It's a $25,000 fine.
Well, he was saying, $25,000 for me and $25,000 for this child and $25,000 for that child.
Come on.
Right? Yeah.
Like the government's going to charge the kids. The kids are being instructed by this asinine father. Sorry. But anyway, as far as the guy in Cape Breton, from what I understand, he's a veteran with the military.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. He is.
Right? He's a veteran. So you think he probably supported the truckers in Ottawa when they shut that city down for how many weeks?
He did. He fought against public health restrictions and stuff, right?
There you go.
Because he views them as an infringement on liberty, his personal liberty.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Where's my liberty if some some moron goes in? I'm surrounded by trees here.
Yeah.
What about my right?
Okay.
To protect my house from burning down. Do I not have a right?
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is why we're having this debate today. Almost a week later. It's just fascinating to me. Okay, thank you for your call. If you want to jump in on that one. Once more, that's a topic that's up for discussion today. I mean, it's a hot one for sure. 1-833-668-2577 if you want to jump in on that, or the pipeline discussion as well. More to say about that as we make our way through this hour of Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's get to Linda, who's calling from Southern Alberta, wants to weigh in on our topics today. Hi, Linda.
Hello. How are you?
Linda, you're on the air. Just great. Could be a little cooler.
Yes.
It's 33 degrees here today. Feels like 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've never been so green this time of the year.
Right. Okay.
It's been raining
it's a
here
little
off
on
and
the
on a lot.
cooler side. I hear it's been on the cooler side for the most part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not been a bad summer.
That's good.
Yeah, in regards to that guy walking in the woods, well, there are rights and freedoms, but there's also responsibilities to those rights and freedoms. And basically, he's crossing the line because he's not being responsible for the rights of others. And there is also something in legislation that says the government has the right to restrict if it's for the betterment or the good of, right? So I think those laws are fine. I said we have places in Alberta that have been charred, like Waterton National Park. I mean, that's been like, I can't remember how many years ago. I went there last summer, and sure, they rebuilt everything, but that mountain of black trees is still there. I mean, how many years is it going to take for that? And as far as others, well, I know Fort McMurray, people lost their lives. It wasn't just houses. So, no, I think he's being very disrespectful to the rights of others. And as far as the pipeline goes, I think Carney said that right at the beginning. He told us one thing, and then he told Quebec another thing, like, no, we're not going to build a pipeline. So this is just saying the quiet out loud, as far as I'm concerned, because national interest, while they're giving all kinds of money to softwood lumber, that protects BC and Quebec. So, you know, where's the national interest here when it comes to pipeline?
Okay. And you think, though, that pipelines are in the national, building a pipeline would be in the national interest. You think so?
Well, I think, you know, if you're talking about getting resources elsewhere, you know, like people down, if it wasn't for Quebec, I'm sure that pipeline would go.
I mean, it kind of meets two goals. I mean, we want more trade among the provinces. You would think a cross-Canada pipeline would accomplish that, and you want to diversify and do more trade with other countries so you're less reliant on the United States. I mean, wouldn't a pipeline do that as well?
Yeah, and isn't that what Carney said when it comes to this tariffs and stuff? That's exactly what he said. But now he's all gung-ho about supporting softwood lumber, which has always been a sticking point for the states and NAFTA. You know, and which provinces are those?
Okay, thank you.
And Quebec.
Gotcha, Linda. Thank you. Thank you for waiting. To Harry in Airdrie today. Hello, Harry. You're on the air.
Hi, how you doing today? It's
I'm good.
To talk to you again, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Harry. Your opinion, please.
I live here in Alberta. We have, for the last few years, had fire bans in Alberta. You know, you can't. I bought a piece of property just so I could go out and have camping with my kids and grandkids, and I think that those fines are not high enough because they're literally going out and breaking the law. I believe I heard it on your radio show earlier that a guy walked into a peace officer and said, you know, give me a fine because I'm going out there and walked in the woods. Well, they should have gave him a bigger fine because they're just disobeying the law. I mean, look at the fires in BC. Look at the fires here in Alberta, the forest fires, you know. People are losing their homes, their lives. And so, no, I don't think that the fines are stiff enough.
Well, the guy who went into the conservation officer's building and said, I'm going into the woods behind this building. I want you to see me and I want you to find me. He was fined more than $28,000. There was a $5,000 fine, and there's court costs, administration costs, victims' fees. All it was $28,000 and change.
Well, it should be $50,000.
Okay.
Easy.
And he's feted in some parts of social media and in the news media as some kind of hero. You know, as a hero almost for standing up.
No, he's not a hero.
No. Okay.
No, I mean, my grandkids come down to our camping site here in Alberta, and they say, oh, Grandpa, can we have a bonfire tonight and roast marshmallows? And I said, no, grandson, we can't because it's against the law right now. And they say, okay. You know, I mean, what kind of grandfather would I be? What kind of lesson would I be teaching them if I turned around and said, okay, let's have a bonfire when it's against the law.
Fair enough. Thank you, Harry, for some grandfatherly perspective today. Good to hear it on Talkback. 1-833-668-2577. 4 lines available there for you right now. We've cleared some of the lines. If you want to give us a try, the wait won't be too long. We'll fit you right in lickety-split here on Talkback on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been talking about people in Nova Scotia openly defying the ban on going into the woods because of the fire risk, going viral because of it, being feted as heroes because of it in some cases. And whether building a pipeline is in the national interest and how you would react if a list of nation-building projects is released and a pipeline isn't one of the projects. 1-833-668-2577. Mitch in Red Deer today. Hello, Mitch.
Hey there. I've been just listening to your show and just listening to these absolutely despicable boomers talk about, well, we have a right to be safe. Little tyrant Tim over there, he'd have a better... He might as well just ban lightning from starting fires. That'd probably be more effective.
Okay. Okay. You hear the callers though from Nova Scotia. I mean, overwhelmingly, very popular policy, sir. Very popular policy. If Tim Houston is a tyrant, they view him as a benevolent tyrant. I would suggest to you.
Yeah, but all the people that are calling in are these boomers that are also saying like, "Oh, the COVID lockdowns and the Freedom Convoy, those are rule breakers." It's just like people wonder why our country is in the state it is. It's because of these people. If the government told them,
"Okay,
hey, you gotta drink bleach and it's for the greater good," they would do it. That's the kind of people that destroyed Canada. And I'm a young person, and if you're over 60, just know that I basically hate you. You destroyed the country. So.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'll end our conversation now and encourage you not to call back. Thank you. If you're going to express sentiments like that. Mitch, I don't want to take your call anymore, okay? Thank you. To Joanne in Calgary. Thank you, Joanne.
Hi, I just wanted
you don't
to
have
call
to, you know
in.
what, Joanne, just let me, okay?
Please.
You can say that you disagree with somebody on this show. That's fine. Don't say that you hate somebody, that you hate a caller, or that you hate you've never even met them before. You're saying you hate them and you want to destroy the country. Like, come on. We can be disagreeable, but we can disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. Okay? And take it to a toxic level of discussion. That's not what we want to do on this platform here. Sorry, Joanne, go ahead. Thank you.
I agree with you completely. I think that's the mentality that why we have to have the rules that we have to have rules for. It's always, some other caller said, it's the lowest denominator of people, and that's why we all have to take the penalty. I mean, I drive for work a lot, and I just the other day in Alberta saw someone throw a cigarette butt out of their window, and I'm thinking, well, you know what I'm thinking. It's just thoughtlessness. So that's what I think. I think the government is right because we have to manage the unmanageable. And then as far as the pipeline goes, maybe we should look at transfer payments. Interestingly enough, Manitoba and Quebec receive transfer payments, and yet they're not cooperating to support the financial benefit of the whole country. Is sort of how I'm looking at it.
Okay. I'm just wondering what kind of blowback there's going to be if a year and a half from now, I'm not saying it's going to turn out like this. You know, there's a list. These are the projects we determined to be in the national interest, and a pipeline is not on that list.
Well,
you're asking for trouble in Alberta and Saskatchewan, I would suggest.
I mean, that's where I live, right? And so I feel that if we challenged, I don't know how to do it, but I don't want to give money to provinces that aren't going to support it. And I'm Canadian. I'm an Albertan, but I support being a member of Canada. But I just don't understand why we have to continue to support provinces that aren't even going to support the building of a pipeline. That's my thinking. Cut them off.
Cut them off. Okay. All right. Thank you. Be right back. In the final 30 minutes of Talkback on a Monday, I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio. So once more, we've been talking about this ban on going into the woods in Nova Scotia. Same ban still is in effect now in New Brunswick, by the way. You have people brazenly breaking the law and going viral for it. That's been a hot topic today, as well as projects in the national interest and whether you think a pipeline qualifies as a project in the national interest. And what if a list of nation-building projects comes out and a pipeline isn't one of them? On the Nova Scotia situation, because it is kind of this weekend was kind of a test how many people would violate this and how many people would abide by it. I wouldn't say the number of people who are in open defiance of the Nova Scotia wood ban seems to be a great number of people. But I'll tell you what, when they take their civil disobedience to social media, it generates a lot of reaction, and maybe that's part of the MO of these people. I don't know. But there's this guy under the woods ban, says he's not going to follow us. So let me set this up for you. It was all over my social media feed this weekend. And as I said, it was the top story in a lot of the Sun post-media newspapers over the weekend. So this is Jeff Evely. He lives where I'm originally from, on Cape Breton Island. He's a veteran. He was a candidate for the People's Party of Canada, the PPC. And he's filming himself on his phone. He's outside the local office of the conservation workers. And he tells them, I'm going to go in the woods, and I hope these guys give me a fine. He goes into the office to talk to them. And let's listen to this.
I'm Jeff Evely. I called earlier.
Evely?
Yeah, Evely. I spoke to somebody earlier.
Yeah.
About the woods ban.
Yep.
And I understand that you guys issue $25,000 fines right now for anybody who goes in.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go in the woods over here.
Okay.
I don't want to make any trouble for you guys. Okay, I took this to court the last time they did it. They said I didn't have standing because I wasn't fined, so there was no money involved.
Okay.
So I want to challenge this order in court, and the only way for me to do that is to get the fine. So I'm not trying to make trouble for you guys. Okay, I just want a piece of Tim Houston, and I want to be as accommodating and nice as I can be. I'm just gonna.
Okay, so I'm ordering you to not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
That's another.
Roger that.
I'm doubling the fines right now.
Okay.
3.3 million views. Last time I looked, it's probably more than that now in 3 days. Last time I looked was about 3 hours ago. Who knows? Maybe it's 3.5 million now. So he goes out, he goes into the woods right near the local office of these conservation officers. This is what that sounded like.
Walk down here and go into these woods. I don't know that there's a good spot to do this, but I'm just going to make this as painless as I can for those guys and go in here. And they have me on camera as well, walking in the woods. All right, isn't this great?
So then after his walk in the woods, he goes back into the office with the conservation officers. He's greeted by one of the officers who hands him fines totaling more than $25,000 and starts telling him this is when you need to show up in court and this is how you can fight it, everything else. He seems, I would say, genuinely pleased at this turn of events. Let's listen to some of that.
For entering the woods without forest travel permit when proclamation is effect, you have a court plea date. Your due date is the 12th of September, so it's a lot quicker, just the ticket. So
okay, yeah, that makes sense. So this is.
Want to go that to make it quicker?
Okay, so this is an SOT, and that is for summons to accused. What is this?
Summary offense ticket.
Yeah.
For today's date, your information, Forest Act 25 sub 1. Fine is $28,872.50.
Okay. I thought it was 25,000. It's 28,870.
Costs, victim fees,
taxes.
Oh, victim fees.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thanks very much, gentlemen. I appreciate your courteous approach. Nice chatting with you. All right. Take care.
One of the conservation officers actually says, "Good luck, Jeff." That cracks me up. But everyone seemed to get along okay. Nobody got tased. No fires were started. 3.3 million views. He wants to fight it in court. And he says he has legal representation from a constitutional legal organization that'll represent him and fight it on his behalf. So he's breaking the law. He's telling them in advance, I'm going to break the law. I'm going into the woods because this is tyranny. What do you think of something like that? Isn't that something? Chris in Guelph. Thanks for waiting, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, hearing most of the callers, I'm actually just a little disappointed in my fellow citizens. I mean,
okay.
I think this is an example of just government overreach. I think he's crazy that he would. Well, because telling us where to walk, like if he's making a forest fire or camping, I get it. But he's hiking, and it just seems a huge overreach in terms of telling us what to do. And the reason I'm saying I'm just disappointed in my fellow citizens is it feels like they're almost like lemmings, like just willing to follow anything, like because it's quote law. But that doesn't make it right. Like you need to challenge things sometimes. Now, I wouldn't be taking the stand and risking a $25,000 fine, but the point is, I think it's wrong, this law. It doesn't make it, there's no, I've heard people calling in saying, well, you're risking my safety. How am I risking your safety? Like, I don't understand that. And you made a good point a few calls ago, actually. You said, well, people of Nova Scotia and the Maritimes are for the most part all for it. But I think it is regional. Like, I think as we go farther west across the country, people hold on to their personal values a little bit more. Whereas I find that on the east side, a little bit more, I don't want to call them lemmings, like they're well-meaning and well-intended people, but I just find blind following of whatever the government says. And I disagree with it. I think this is a complete government overreach, and people calling in saying the guy's ridiculous and you should follow the law no matter what. I think that's asinine. That's my point.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You've made it, sir. Thank you for your calling. Guelph, be right back. I'm Rob Snow. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Kitchener today. Chris is in Kitchener. Hi, Chris. You're on the air, Chris.
Well, sir, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, Chris. Loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've been listening to your show a long time. And this one kind of gets my goat because I kind of find people don't realize the fragility of our wilderness. I'm 60, and I got brought up in hunting, and if you wanted to light a fire to heat up a sandwich or something like that, it was a little fire. You don't need a bonfire. I feel ATVs are a hindrance because I used to walk 8 hours when I went to my hunting grounds up in the logging country. If you're there's a lot of people that, they're in the big cities and they want to get into the woods and build a nice log cabin, and they can do that great. But I wouldn't have 100-foot trees around my area, just because of windstorms or whatever can happen. You can't insure it. And there's so many people that are in the woods that are not responsible enough to just think of what they can do if they want to have a bonfire. You can play, but tinder dry environments are not a good thing.
Okay, what seems to really get people who are totally opposed to this and say it's government overreach is that it applies to what are admittedly, you know, say low risk activities like walking through the woods or you know, going fish, walking through a trail and then going fishing, something like. You know, people can understand. Well, you know, people can understand camping, not bringing in an ATV or some other kind of vehicle into the woods because you have the heat from the exhaust can act as an ignition, right? But it's about the walking and the you know, the hiking and fishing, those sorts of activities.
And those things are fine, but education in the woods, when it's tinder dry like that, like a cedar tree or a pine tree, can go up in a second, and you have no chance. And then you have uneducated people building their things or their houses. Sorry. And and just they like to have the woods, and I understand that close to the property, but I mean the encroachment and who is living in there or trying to, and then the resources that are needed to facilitate not destroying it. I mean, Mother Nature is. You can't stop it, right?
Okay. So do you think the government of Nova Scotia has done the right thing here when it comes right down to it?
Yeah, because you're always going to have people that are going to disagree with it. You're going to have the protesters and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But people have to understand
I have a few more calls that I want to get to. I really appreciate your perspective, Chris, as somebody who spent a lot of time in the woods. Let's go to Dallas, though, in Cambridge. Hi, Dallas.
Yes, sir. How are you today?
Good today, Dallas. What's your opinion, sir?
Well, one quick comment. I'm really glad that you told that Mitch guy basically not to call back, because I just want to tell that Mitch guy, if he's still listening, that this country was built on the back of us 60-year-olds.
Okay, well, I don't want callers warring with each other. I didn't like that he said that he thought people were he hated people. And I don't want other callers to hate other callers. It's pretty basic.
Well,
for me, so.
Hey,
right.
I'm not going to put those words out there at all.
Okay,
but yeah,
so let's get right to the topic. Let's get right to the topic today. I appreciate that.
Anyway,
but let's pay that no more.
Last week I already talked about the fire thing. So let's talk about the pipeline for a minute or two.
Sure thing.
I didn't see the actual list that came out. I didn't know.
No, there's no list yet. There's no list yet. Yeah.
No list yet. Okay, well, fair enough. It boils down to, once again, all these interprovincial trade barriers that they keep saying they got to break down, but everybody wants this, everybody wants that, everybody wants their little piece of pie. That's causing a barrier, isn't it? But yet they all say, hey, we got to work together so we haven't got to worry about dealing with Mr. Trump in the United States. I don't know how this is ever going to get solved, because it's been going on for years and years, let's face it. But at some point in time, all these wonderful politicians of ours have to understand that whether they like it or not, they got to find a common ground so we can get these projects built. As far as, yes, get the pipelines built so we can send our oil and resources to somebody else. I agree with that 100%, and it would be good for the country. Guaranteed. I mean, you know, there's no argument there. The more we can get the market, the better off we are, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. So you think a pipeline would be in the national interest, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, look, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Our time is tight, sir. We just have a few minutes left. Wish you had called earlier. We'll be right back on Talkback on News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Our time is tight. Let's go to Dean, is calling from Ottawa. Hello, Dean.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Dean. Your opinion, please.
My opinion, well, I'm thinking about these bans that the Nova Scotians are having to deal with right now.
Yeah.
I want to give you an example of how silly, in my opinion anyway, that this ban is. Low risk activities like, say, picking berries or walking your dog or bird watching, any sort of thing you do in the woods. I mean, it's got no chance of any sort of combustion or anything like that. But yet at the same time, you got towns and municipalities all across Nova Scotia. They can all have fireworks displays. They're having fireworks displays this weekend. You got all mining and forestry still going ahead. Is that not more of a risky, of something happening, a fire getting started?
They have to apply for commercial activity in the woods. They have to apply for special permits from MNR in Nova Scotia right now, as I understand it.
But what does a permit do? Is something, there's sources of ignition everywhere in the forestry industry or in the mining industry. So
I'm sure there is.
But they wouldn't do that because they know that towns and municipalities would be up in arms over it. They know that all the mining and forestry would be up in arms over it. They would kick up a big stink and fight back, and they wouldn't do it. But they know that people are going to do as they're told. Most people are just going to take it. I think they can't do things like this, and that's why it's low-hanging fruit. So let's just prove a point by telling people that they can't do this. But at the same time, actually dangerous, they don't even mention. And they say it's safety. It's all in the name of safety. Safety is a word that seems like government uses now to justify anything they want to do, any sort of control mechanism. Any sort of overreach. In my opinion, I think a lot of people they really crave this type of sort of control or direction. And
so
some
you think it goes
say,
too far? Okay, yeah, you think it goes too far? It's too broad. Some of the activities that are captured by it should be part of this. And if you want to target, as you say, specific high risk behaviors, campfires, ATVs, commercial activity, ban that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I think we've lost him. Let's go to. Well, actually, we'll have to wrap it up there, because our next caller would only have about 25 seconds. I'm afraid that's all of our time. We actually ran out of time today, which is usually a rarity on Talkback. But it was very busy, start to finish, once again on that Nova Scotia ban in the woods because of fire risk, which now is not just a Nova Scotia thing. It has, it is now crossed the border into New Brunswick. The New Brunswick situation not as severe when it comes to things like private property. The fines are not nearly as punitive as they are in Nova Scotia, not $25,000, although they're monitoring the situation, they say. So that's the story that we are keeping an eye on, but we will be back tomorrow with a brand new topic and more of your calls and opinions. I'm Rob Snow. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is News Radio.
Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to iqbar.com today and enter promo code Keller20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's iqbar.com, promo code Keller20.